Welcome back. You're watching DXB today, and joining us is our next guest. She is an award-winning filmmaker, Farah Nabulsi. Farah, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited. Of course, we have to start talking about your very first film, The Present, which was nominated for BAFTA and the Oscars. It is a very touching story of a father and a daughter in the Palestinian enclave going towards the occupied West Bank to buy a wedding anniversary gift. Watching that movie today in 2024 or even in 2023, what is your feeling, or what has been the general takeaway from it?
I mean, for me, the film was so exceptionally well received. So it won a BAFTA and was nominated for an Oscar and won over 60 international awards at film festivals and around the world. And you can see it on Netflix. And so it really resonated, I think, with audiences around the world. And I'm very proud of it. But with my up-and-coming feature film, I have to not rest on those accolades. I have to kind of separate myself from that and really forge forward with my next work and hope that it's as well received, but respect that it might not be, and that's okay.
But to get a BAFTA on your very first film is a remarkable achievement. Did you think it would touch that far?
No, no one. I don't think anyone when they direct their first film thinks that it's gonna win a BAFTA. But you know, I make films from my heart and with the best of intentions, and not so that I win an award. And therefore, I think that's what resonated. I think that it was authentic and it was from the heart, and I think that that's what resonated so well. But no expectation.
And I also think part of it, Farah, is that you actually did film in the Palestinian West Bank. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and any challenges you might have faced?
Yeah, so I mean, I shot The Present in the West Bank. The Teacher, that's the film that's about to have its cinema release, I shot in the West Bank as well over a much longer period of time because it's a feature-length film. And that was exceptionally challenging. So if I thought The Present was challenging, this was even more so, and that was only about a year and a half ago. You know, there's the practical logistical problems, of course, when you're dealing with checkpoints and roadblocks. But really for me, it's the emotional, mental toll, because, stay with me here, but you know, you're making a film that's a story set in a really harsh reality. And then you're shooting that film in that harsh reality with that reality playing out in real time around you. And at the same time, do justice in your film to that reality. So it was a multitude of kind of emotional, mental challenges in that sense.
It must have been very draining. I mean, but it does show how these things continue to happen.
It was probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, actually. But I think my work in that sense lends a context. Even though it's sort of specifically about certain characters, it lends a context by shooting there, not just with the story itself, but in the topography, the beautiful side of things and the ugly side, you know, the infrastructures of control and so forth. So, yeah.
Farah, I'm sure I speak for all of us, we cannot wait to watch your feature film. But because we're talking a little bit about Oscars as well, your first film was Oscar nominated, and this year is the first year that 3 films that are nominated for Best Feature Film are directed by women, and it's the first of, you know, ever in the Academy Awards history. So a film that you have made that is so timely, that we hope to resonate with the audience around the world. What are the hopes and visions for this film being submitted to the Oscars, representing this part of the world and this story for the 2025th edition of the Oscars? Do you have plans for that? Can you share those with us?
You know, I hope so. I hope that we have the potential of being a country submission for the international feature category of the Oscars. That would be wonderful. I can't predict it, but we're at the beginning of our journey. You know, this film, The Teacher, it had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival. And then we had the MENA premiere at the Red Sea International Film Festival in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure you're very familiar with it, where we took home the Best Actor Award and the Jury Award. And the jury was headed up by Baz Luhrmann, who's the director of Elvis and Moulin Rouge and The Great Gatsby. And this is the beginning of the journey, right? And we are premiering in the UAE in cinemas across the UAE February 8th. and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and so forth. And we're going to have our UK premiere next in March and so forth. So as we move forward, I hope into the award season of, I guess, this time next year, maybe will be a country submission. And it's brilliant to have, you know, female filmmakers make it in terms of nominations. I will tell you one of my favorite films actually in this year's nominations in the documentary category is Four Daughters by Kauthar Ben Hania, who's a brilliant Tunisian filmmaker.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite films this year.
And I think she has made history for being the first Arab woman who's had 2 nominations in the Academy Awards, and we're hoping that you follow suit and get 2 of those as well under your belt. That would be great.
Hope so.
I don't doubt it. Farah, I know we're talking about the future and what's coming up, but you know, for someone with so many accolades and achieved so much already, as we discussed before, there's youth that have such a strong passion for what you are living and doing right now. So, quick piece of advice for anyone listening right now that wants to be in your position one day, what would you say for young budding filmmakers?
Well, I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. So you have to have a thick skin, really. And my advice would always be try and make films that matter to you, that have a depth and a meaning, because it is so tough. So you have to have that passion and that drive to really see things through, even in the darker times or when you really want to throw in the towel. And you will want to throw in the towel. So, you know, so I would say try to make films where you're really connected with the material. And if you can connect with that, then you'll really, I hope, be able to make films that, I think the best kind of films are made when the filmmaker has connected. So, yeah.
Well, Farah, we definitely want to chat with you a little bit more. But before we do that, we do want to check out today's Spotlight, which today is on the first independent cinema in the GCC region, bringing critically acclaimed films from around the world right here to the UAE. This is Cinema Aqil.
My name is Khalid Al-Saba. I'm the General Manager of Cinema Aqil. Cinema Aqil is the first and only independent art house cinema in the GCC region. We're trying to fill the gap of creating an alternative cinema and bring independent films to audiences in the region. A lot of major milestones to start with, building a amazing community of supporters and people who are part of our cinema, transitioning the pop-up cinema into a permanent experience in Al Sirkal Avenue, and also major IPs like Arab Cinema Week, and also becoming the home of Real Palestine Film Festival. And our last milestone is Cinema Aqil in 25 hours in One Central. One of our major challenges is when people hear the word cinema, they assume a certain type of experience. But we're more than just a cinema. We're also a place of conversation. We're a place of dialogue. It's a place where community come together to enjoy and watch independent cinema, and also become part of a big community. Dubai is a city of constant growth, change, and opportunities. It is rich with communities that live within the city and contributes to the soul of it. And we are proud to be part of this big community. Cinema Aqil is a place that was built by love of the community and by the support of the community. We have also volunteer programs like in Real Palestine and other also festivals. Everyone can get involved by volunteering, being part of the community, but also a big part of it is telling everyone about what we do and why we do it, and support that to keep it going and to keep it sustainable for all of us.
Fantastic. Looking forward to checking out Cinema Aqil. But Nimi, I believe you have the daily roundup for us, so hit us with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all eyes on the Oscar nominees. They've just been announced this week. So we have Oppenheimer, who leads the nominations with a total of 13, followed by Poor Things with 11, Killers of the Flower Moon, which I absolutely love, with 10, and Barbie with 8 nominations. Now, all 4 films will be competing for the Best Picture of the Year, along some other fantastic movies as well. I mean, there's been some very high-profile nods in there. Lily Gladstone is the first Native American acting nominee, and Martin Scorsese is now the most nominating living movie director. But also added on the end of that, and I woke up this morning, put on Instagram, and instantly it was Barbie's been snubbed, but
Yeah.
it's Greta, and of course we've got Margot Robbie. So what are we thinking about that? Because I mean, even Ryan Gosling, he like released a bit of a statement about it as well.
Ryan Gosling, shockingly, has been nominated though.
Well,
Why?
I might be the person to say this.
Yeah.
So, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I did watch the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
And I do think that Ryan Gosling, his character really shone through a lot of that with his musical number, which was also nominated
Yep.
for Best Original Soundtrack. And I think he just did fantastically. But yeah, I can get why a lot of people would be annoyed that this film about feminism didn't include the director or the lead character.
I mean, the film did become the highest grossing box office film of the year. So they've kind of won in that respect, right? They took the home the cash. But I think it's not that Barbie was not a fantastic film or that the direction or the production was not phenomenal. It's just that this year there have been such a surge of fantastic films telling stories that are just as important, and I think it was just a comparison of the best. Sometimes if you have 10 amazing films, you know, the last 2 have to get cut. So I think we can look at it from that respect, but Barbie has made history already anyway. I don't think they need an Oscar to prove a point.
I think if there was a category for the best marketing for a movie, I think
Oh my
Barbie
God.
would knock it out of the park. I mean, that is all we could talk about last year. Last year, the entire town was painted pink, which makes me want to ask you this question. As a filmmaker yourself, how stressful is it when it comes to the actual promotion of the film? Because having a brilliant movie with the best storyline, the best cast is one thing, but promoting it and marketing it is a whole nother ball game. How important is that?
Is hugely important, but you know, there's a difference between massive studio films and independent cinema. And so my experience is independent cinema, whereas Barbie is like, you know, a massive ordeal with a huge budget and people working with you. So I know the guerrilla style version of this, which is, in my opinion, extremely hard actually. But it's very important, of course, and that takes up sometimes. I've heard the numbers to do with even marketing for the Academy Awards. I mean, you can speak to this even more than me, but it's sometimes the same amount as what the film cost.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, huge amounts, huge numbers.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you know, who knows? I'm not an expert on it, but Farah, thank you so much for joining us today on DXB Today.
Thank you for having me.
Right now, though, we do want to discuss the Filmfare nominations with everybody's favorite Emirati content creator, Shay, with Ahmed. Plus, we've got Conleth with a brand new single right here in the studio, so don't go anywhere.